Hey everybody, welcome back to Pushing Pixels. I'm your host Sam Mestis. Today we're going to do one of my tutorials. This is the Ferrari logo that we made. We're going to shoot for something like this, and believe it or not, it's a lot easier than it looks. Let's get started. I'm going to just get rid of that guy real quick, and we're going to work on this file here. So I have this Ferrari logo and the background, which I'm going to make permanent. And I'm going to fill my background layer with sort of maybe a red. That's not the red I want. Let's find a better red. It's a little bit too pink for my taste. And let's see if that works. What mode am I in? Image mode. RGB? That looks very weird to me. Why does that look so weird to me? There we go. Let's try that red. That's a lot better. I wonder why that was weird. Anyway, doesn't matter. So we have our red layer here, and I'm actually going to name that red because I'm going to keep track of it. And I'm going to lay my logo layer, logo. All right, so I have my logo, and I have my red layer. So we'll start with my logo. I'm going to click my logo layer and go to my 3D palettes, and I already have them floating out here. I have my 3D palette here and my properties there. And we're going to do selected layer, 3D extrusion, and then create. And it is going to create this extruded logo, and there you go. Now let's do it with the back, the red one. Let's do the same thing. We're going to make an extrusion out of it. Selected layer, and I'm going to create. And there you go. Now I have two 3D elements, but we got to merge them together. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key and select both those layers, make sure they're selected, and hit Command E. Command E will merge those layers into one layer. And our logo has disappeared, but it is still there. You just can't see because of the way it's buried inside the red cube. And we'll fix that right now. I'm going to go to Current View right there. And I'm going to make sure I'm selected on the Move tool and Orbit. And I am going to orbit my project so I can see sort of all of it. And you can see the cube is really deep. So go ahead and select the cube right there. It says red in your 3D palette. And it looks like we're in pixel format. If you're not in pixel format, change it. Go to the last icon there and change this pull down to pixels. Sometimes it's in inches. We want pixels. All right, so I have red selected, and I am going to go to the first star here, and I'm going to change my depth to 2 full pixels. And you're going to see that thing shrink up a little bit, quite a bit. And you can actually see the logo in the back. All right. Okay, so now that we have that, let's pick the logo right there, and we'll change that one to 15. And you still can't see it, but we'll fix that. So I selected my extrusion depth to 15. The red extrusion depth is set to 2. So back to our logo. Click on that guy in your 3D palette and grab this little blue arrow, the very tip, wait till it turns yellow, and drag it forward till it emerges from your red background. And I'm just going to pull it just a little bit above the red background there. It'll drop a little bit of shadow there. And we're in preview mode, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to change my view just a little bit so I can sort of get a better view. There we go. All right, so now we have to make our Ferrari chrome. If you look at our original, our Ferrari logo is chromed out, so we want to go with that. So on the logo, we are going to adjust the front, and the bevel, and the extrusion faces. So go to the front one first. We're going to crank our shine all the way up. We're going to change our diffuse color to solid black. And then bring our reflection up quite a bit. I'm going to say almost 90. All right. So 100, and actually make it about 80, 85. Let's say 85 for now. All right. 185. That's it. Do the same thing on the bevel. Change it to black. Shine to 100 and 85-ish. Extrusion. Change it to black. 100. Shine. 85. Reflection. 80 something. Close enough. All right. And that's it. Let's now add a bevel. If you look at the original, you see we have this nice little bevel along the edges here, and it adds to some of the reflection elements. So let's add that. I'm going to change my current view just a bit so I can sort of see what I'm doing here. Get a better sense of how the bevel's going to work. There we go. Maybe too close. All right. So go back to logo, and we are going to go to the third icon up here in the properties. This is the bevel controls right there. And we are going to change, and you're going to notice it right away. We're going to change our width to 15, and it's already put a little bit of a bevel on there. And the contour we're going to change to this fifth one right here. It's called Cove. And it's going to put a little bit of a cove bevel on it. Now you can barely see it on there, but it is there. And believe it or not, our model is already done. I am going to go to current view up here, and I'm going to sort of move things around just a little bit so I can see better. Perfect. All right, I'm going to close those. We have two more things to do. This is how simple this is. We have to set the environment so we can have some nice reflections and do some lighting. Okay, so click on environment right there, and you can see in our IBL we have this generic IBL. It'll come up right there. We have this generic one, and not too good to look at. In fact, kind of dull and boring, and isn't really doing us much for reflections. So we're going to close that, and we're going to replace it with the one I gave you guys. Replace. It's called New IB Light, and it is this gradient right here that I made. Nothing too complicated. We're going to replace it with that. So go to the little page right there and click and hit Replace Texture. There you go, and grab your deal. Perfect. All right, I'm going to go back to my default view has vanished. What a shock. That is the luxury of Photoshop sometimes. All right, so I'm still in environment. I could do it this way. I'm in environment, and I am going to make sure I'm on the move in the orbit tool, and I'm going to move my IBL widget here until I get something I kind of like. And I kind of like that a little bit, right? Not too bad. Move it any which way you want till you find something you like. That's pretty good. I'm going to keep that. That's a nice sort of, let me see. Maybe that. Let's try that. I don't know. Kind of like that too. Yeah, we'll pick one. That's good enough. All right, so everything's good. The last thing we're going to do is add a light. Now, it already has an infinite light here, but not really doing much for me and not that exhilarating. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm just going to turn the eyeball off there. And I'm going to go down to the bottom here where the little light bulb is and click New Point Light. And it is going to put a brand new light in my document, and you can see it right there. And I'm going to move it kind of close to my document. So I'm going to grab these little arrowhead, these tips, and I am going to move it until I can really get a nice sort of lighting situation here. That may be a little bit too close. Let me see if I can back it off. All right, let's try that. All right, not too bad. We're going to leave it there. I like it. All right, I'm going to go back to my current view, and now I'm going to rotate my view till I have something I sort of like. I'm going to zoom in. I use my zoom tools here and my pan tool until I have kind of something like that. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to put a blank layer at the very bottom, and I'm going to fill it with black just so I have something contrast against that. All right, there you go. That's kind of how I did it. I can now hit render. There's a couple ways to do that. You can hit the render button right there on the properties tab. If you click on the layer, the properties render will show up there, or you can hit Control Option Command R, those 4 keys, and it will start your render as it has there, and you can see it's starting to render right now. So anyway, I'm not going to let that render right now because you don't need to see that. You know what it's going to look like. So I'm going to let it render real quick. Pretend it's rendered, just for the sake of argument. I'm going to get rid of this edge real fast. I'm going to put a blank layer on top just to get rid of this edge. And reset my colors, D, so black is my foreground color, and use a gradient, black to transparent gradient, that guy right there. And I'm going to drag it in, actually I'm going to drag it in from here, and that sort of gets rid of that line for me and helps my lighting situation. And then I'm going to do one down on the bottom here. Maybe a couple more it's going to help frame this thing a little bit. There you go. That's pretty slick. And then you can go and render and see what it looks like. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to look a little bit like this when it's all said and done. Now I added a couple lens flares. You're welcome to do that, and see how cool that comes out. But you can already see I'm getting some interesting reflections here, just in preview mode. Uh, and you can see the nice bevel. Everything looks pretty good. But hopefully you end up with something like that. It's pretty simple. It just looks a little complicated. Not too bad though. All right, everybody, enjoy and have a good day. Thanks.